Welcome. This is my first vlog ever. I feel really weird about doing this, but I wanted to kind of go over everything that happened this year because last year I did not do that. And even this year, people keep asking me what I've been up to, what I've been doing, and I don't know how to answer because I honestly can't remember. And it's because I've actually done a lot this year. So my biggest announcement for 2019 is at the end of this video. I know it's a long one, so if you make it to the end, kudos to you. But if you don't, go ahead and skip towards the end if you want to see my biggest announcement for 2019 moving into 2020. Without further ado, here is my highlight reel of 2019.
Let's run away. Forget about the Let's run away.
So before we get started, I guess you need to know a little bit about 2018 because I didn't talk about it too much. It was a really tough year. So I moved back home after I graduated college. My goal was to become a Navy SEAL. I had been training for over a year and a half in total. Had worked at a dairy over a summer to be able to afford eye surgery. Got my eye surgery, moved home while I was waiting for the period after surgery to be able to be seen by the MEPS officers. By the time I did all the paperwork, went through MEPS, did all that, they still said no. I had 20/15 vision in both eyes, which is better than perfect for those of you who don't know. My ASVAB score was between 94 and 96. I don't remember offhand, but that's a super high score. And they disregarded my doctor's notes, disregarded my appeals, and said you're disqualified from all military service in any capacity, in any branch. So that dream is dead. But that was why I moved back home right after college, had my degree, and found myself stuck with no plan and no path whatsoever. I was working for Barry Walter Senior Company, which is a plumbing parts manufacturing company. So they make replacement parts for your sinks, for your faucets, anything that has water, basically, they make parts. So I was working for them, got another job, started working at a college. Just a really tough year overall. I produced and wrote a song for a wedding.
I can't believe it. I didn't see it.
Shortly after my grandpa died, I was in a couple shows, The Addams Family, and then we did a Christmas show as well. It's a Wonderful Life radio show. It was not all bad, but that was 2018 in a review. Just really a shock to me. I had no plan and didn't really know what to do because I'd put all my cards in one hat on this military thing. So leading into 2019, I was planning on having a much better year. So without further ado,
let's get started.
First thing of the year, my girlfriend Sammy and I celebrated Valentine's Day at the Denver Aquarium. It was a super great date. Definitely recommend for those of you in the Colorado area looking for something to do for Valentine's Day. They did a great job. As always, I spent a lot of time in the gym. Shocker, I know. I did lots of different stuff at work. One thing I was really excited about is I got more experience in graphic design. I did a whole lot of reading and research, and if you're interested in what sort of things I've been reading or what sort of stuff I've been looking into, leave a comment below. I can make some videos about it. Probably one of my best and worst traits is I'm always trying to learn something new. I'm kind of ADHD about it, but I'm jumping all over the place, always trying to find some new stuff to learn or jumping between projects, and I just end up having way too many things happening at once. It's better than nothing. I'm always learning something, but never at the speed that I want to. And alongside reading and research, I don't know if you can see this, I'm using it as my show notes right now, but I purchased a Chromebook, and I found that aside from audio and video editing, you can do pretty much everything on a Chromebook that you could ever want to do on a PC or a Mac. And I think for most people and their computer needs, getting a cheap Chromebook could really do it all. So yeah, that was something I kind of ventured into. If you want to see how I use my Chromebook, what web apps I use, and how it helps me produce an audiobook, which I'll talk about a little later, leave a comment below. I'd be happy to kind of walk through what I personally use for my Chromebook, what recommendations I have, and how you might be able to use it for your stuff. I need to drink my water. So my church had an interesting opportunity this year that I didn't really foresee being involved with, but they were looking at installing a new sound system. One of the elders happened to show me the quote, and I'm glad he did because they had quoted like 10 grand for this little sound system. Long story short, a buddy at church and I kind of redid the quote, proposed it to the elders, and we installed a new sound system in the church. But yeah, it was pretty inexpensive, and it's been really effective for us. The biggest challenge being working with the room and getting the EQ right, but that's any room and that's any live sound setting. For those of you who don't know, I studied music business and audio production at Belmont University, so I do kind of have an idea of what I'm talking about when it comes to audio production and that sort of thing.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, but we installed a sound system, and with that came some new performance opportunities in church. We had a guest harp group come in, and I did audio for them. We had a guest pianist, songwriter lady come in and helped with that. I did some solo performances.
Down the Via Dolorosa.
Sound system's been a cool thing, and I was glad that I was able to get that experience because I'd never actually done a system install before. To see my good friend Michael.
This one's for you, the girl I never knew.
For those of you who have heard my latest EP, the Bittersweet EP, which I released shortly after graduating college as well. If you haven't heard it, link's in the bio, you can hear it everywhere. But my good friend Michael produced that. But I hadn't seen him for over a year, so I took a trip out to Ohio, and we had a good time together, made some music, hung out, that sort of thing. My cousin got married. The venue was absolutely gorgeous, so here's a few pictures of that. 2019, I spent a lot of time fixing my car. Now, I drive a 2005 Honda Element with about 176,000 miles on it. I bought this thing in high school with my own money. It survived through college. I did have to make an emergency alternator replacement in a college parking lot, but overall it's been a really good car, but this year was not its year. I've had so many repairs and replacements with it, and the first thing was a strut. I replaced that. One of the perks of my job at MCC is that we do have an auto tech program, so they have all the tools. They have a nice garage so that when it's cold or extremely hot, you can still work in there, get things done, and that has come in clutch this year for sure. So first I replaced a strut. We had a flash flood, and I was driving down a narrow road, went through a huge puddle, and water went everywhere. But I found out about a week later that the water drain for the AC had become completely plugged. The Element doesn't have carpet, so underneath the rubber mats, I basically found out that my entire car had about 2 inches of water underneath of it. So that was a huge project to try to drain that, and I couldn't find the cause at first, so we drained it out, I put everything back together, and a week later it was entirely flooded again. Finally found the little drain hose for the AC, drained that out, and another 2 gallons of water probably came out of there. So that was a nightmare. My car flooded. That was part 2. Shortly after that, I was in a Walmart parking lot and got back in my car, and suddenly the ignition would not turn. And I found out that this is a thing with Hondas too, and that's like a couple $1,000s to replace your ignition, reprogram your keys, and I live in a town where there's not a Honda dealer, so I'd have to have the car towed there. So I ended up taking apart my entire ignition. In order to do that, you often have to drill holes into different parts of the ignition to push out pins, because they don't want you to just be able to steal somebody's car by ripping out the ignition and shoving a screwdriver in there. But yeah, long story short, again, I was able to actually fix that ignition by pulling out some of the pins in the ignition to make the key work again.
It's a miracle!
But shortly after that, for some reason, taking apart the steering column made my headlight switch go kaput. And so that was a big ordeal to try to test all the electrical and make sure that was the only thing that went wrong. But yeah, then my headlights didn't work and had to get those fixed. I know we said 2019 highlights, but there's some lows in here too. My girlfriend Sammy has a bunch of dogs, and they've had a ton of litters of puppies. Here's a picture or a couple videos of cute little doggos, cute little puppers. Aren't they cute? If you're looking for dogs, leave a comment below. I can get you in touch with her. She still has a bunch left. Another thing I did this year was kind of venture into carpentry with my dad a little bit. Now, I don't have much experience with carpentry at all, but I acquired this record cabinet from my grandma's neighbor, and it was pretty torn up. The front is actually a lot of plastic, so we had to We had to recreate the bottom of the record cabinet how we imagined it would look best with wood, and then I sanded and repainted and refinished this whole thing. It turned out really great. Here's what it looks like. So then Sammy and I's anniversary came up, so I took her to the Candlelight Dinner Theater in Johnstown, Colorado. Definitely a cool place, kind of out of the way, but we saw Tarzan and had a great little dinner theater experience and 1 year anniversary. So part of 2019 as well were some photo shoots. I got some headshots done for acting type stuff and different auditions, and then we also did a photo shoot for a show that we produced called The Last 5 Years. I'll talk about that a little bit more. We could really do a whole vlog on that show because it was crazy. But we spent a long time planning for this musical. It's a 2-person show, and Sam Baldwin and we spent a ton of time on this, and it was pretty much entirely self-directed up until the last week or so before the show. We got some help with set design and of course with lights and sound and running all the components that you can't run when you're the person on the stage. So I'll talk about that a little bit more later, but this kind of marked the beginning of that. I created a bunch of posters and press materials for this, and we shortly after found out that this musical does not have any tracks. Now, I don't know if y'all can relate, but in a small town, there's definitely not a great orchestra around, and definitely not one that's gonna play for free for a community theater. I found myself in the position having to do music production and kind of recreate these tracks and bring elements together for us to be able to do this show with a low budget. So luckily I was able to find some karaoke bits and find some other people doing covers and stuff and kind of meld it all together and then use MIDI to create bass lines and stuff like that. And the finished product was actually really great in terms of the music that was playing behind us. I don't think anybody really knew we had to produce it versus it being some sort of product that we'd normally get to play along with the musicals and things like that. So I'll talk about that musical some more, but that was a huge challenge for me, was kind of producing that just off the cuff and with a super short deadline. Okay, more travel. Over the summer I became an uncle again, and so we made a trip to San Antonio. I was able to take Sammy with me this time, so she got to meet my brother and his family, his wife's family, and my grandma was there, so just a super awesome trip, and we got to experience a lot of what was happening in San Antonio. It was hot, big shocker. But that was super fun. Shortly after, Sammy's family took a trip to Los Angeles to visit some extended family over there, and they invited me to come, so that was super fun. We did a ton of stuff. We were on the David Spade show as extras, In-N-Out Burger, of course, Universal Studios. We had some massive donuts. We went to California Adventure. We were running around and by a stroke of luck, timed the Frozen show like perfect. I snuck a couple pictures in the theater. Forgive me, theater people. Definitely go into that theater and watch something, because this was a full-blown, like, Broadway quality musical theater production, and it was practically the whole show. It was about an hour long, and that was my highlight of that part of the trip. That and the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, definitely recommend. We went to a place called OUE Sky Space, which is in, I think it was the Citibank building in one of the downtown areas in LA. But it is cool. It has an outdoor slide that comes outside and slides back in down the next floor, and then kind of a good picture area. So we did that, and that was the LA trip. There's a lot going on in there, but that was super fun and a great experience. I had not been back to LA in a long time. So we live close to Denver, and Sammy actually goes to school in there, so we make a lot of trips to 16th Street, and we always have lots of adventures there. In 2019 was a weird year for costumes for me. I showed up as Spider-Man at a lot of events, and this originally started as a cancer benefit barbecue that this sweet little girl, Spider-Man was her favorite superhero, and they wanted Spider-Man there. And so they asked me to do that, and I, of course, said yes. It was a really, really sad event, and I was able to actually see her, but she shortly after passed away. But I've been using that costume a lot since, and have showed up at probably 3 different things. But yeah, really random, but that suit has come in handy quite a bit. So finally, The last 5 years, I made this shirt. Do you like this shirt? I made it. I made the shirt. But yeah, I was able to be Jamie in that show. Super great experience. I'll just save it for the next vlog because this video is already going to be super long. But that was a whirlwind and probably one of the biggest highlights of this year for me, and one of the biggest challenges as a performer for me. Never performed a show that was in a thrust, so almost in the round, and I've never directed before, never had to do music production for a show like that before, never had to sing that high before. It's just a whole lot of firsts for me, and definitely a huge challenging show in terms of memorization. And when you're on stage, a lot is on you because you're the only person there in this style of show with two people. So a great show. If you missed it, you really missed a great one.
Did I see sirens go flying past? Though I don't know what tomorrow's bringing, I've got a singular impression things are moving too fast. And I'm cheering on your side, Kathy. Why can't you support mine? Why do I have to feel I've committed some felony, doing what I always swore I would do?
Okay, some other little things. I made a backup of our family's entire analog photo library. Went to some concerts. I'm a big fan of metal.
My parents were headbangers.
Which is kind of weird because I'm a theater guy and went to Nashville and write country-ish music. But I love metal, so I saw Nothing More. Saw Ghost, saw Ask Me Alexandria, saw Papa Roach. Those were awesome concerts. Oh, and Shinedown. That was the other one. But absolutely love going to those things. I've been doing a lot of audition reels, producing those, and kind of submitting a lot of auditions. My hope was to kind of secure a cruise line gig earlier in the year, and it didn't pan out, and I'm still on the database, still waiting to hear anything whatsoever, but I think your best bet if you're looking at that is going to physical auditions. I'm not sure what this next year holds, but I spent a lot of time doing online auditions and that sort of thing. While the cruise lines didn't fall through, something did fall through, and that was an audiobook. If you want to know more about how I auditioned and how I found these opportunities, leave a comment below. I can do a video about that. But basically, I auditioned for and was selected to produce a book for Audible through a company called ACX. And the book is called Addicted to Ansley. It is a modern romance. And yeah, I was the voice actor and producer for that book. I recently finished about a week ago, submitted it to Audible for their final review. And if all goes well, this book will be on all the marketplaces. But yeah, that was a huge challenge and a huge time commitment for me in the past few months, which is why I've kind of been radio silent. Are you there? It was 23 chapters, which is a decent size for a book. And I had a great time kind of figuring out the best way to streamline the process, make a template, and there's way more that goes into it than I would have ever expected, from trying to block out different sounds, trying to use the best plugins and filters and things like that to block out mouth noises and breaths, and if the air conditioner turned on or the heater or somebody stepped on a creaky board upstairs or somebody turned the water on, stuff like that. It was a really good project, a really good challenge again in voice acting, something I've never really done before, and so I was really proud of that. Kind of an unexpected thing, but you don't know if you don't audition, and you don't know if you don't try for stuff. So that was cool, and definitely a good opportunity for those of you who are interested in acting, but you might be in a town where there's really nothing happening. I definitely recommend voice acting if you have a little experience. And if you don't, it's not super hard to learn. I'd be happy to make some tutorials about how to kind of get into some basics of audio recording, essential equipment, that sort of thing. While we're on the tech vein of things, I kind of went out on a limb. I sold all of my analog guitar equipment, amps, pedals, all of that, which I know a lot of people are probably gonna say, why would you do that? But I did buy the Boss Katana and started exploring that rig. A couple of my students use the Boss Katana, and what it is, for those of you who are not guitar people or don't know, is it's just a guitar amplifier, but it has this effects software that you basically plug it into your computer. You can create all these different guitar sounds and effects. It does pretty much everything that over $1,000 rig setup could do, but it's way more affordable. And there's this footboard that you can buy for it. With this footboard, you could program in up to 8 different guitar sounds and things, and you could potentially fully gig with just that footboard. Now, it does take a lot of onboarding time, but for somebody just getting into guitar amps and things like that, it's a great way to play with different parameters, figure out what effects do, and just really get your feet wet, figure out signal chain, what sounds best, all of that without spending a ton of money.
Rock and roll.
He has to believe in him.
Is this thing on? Hello? Is it on?
So now we are in spooky season, and Sammy and I went to a pumpkin patch. We live out in northeast Colorado, so there's tons of cornfields, tons of yeehaw stuff going on. Yeehaw! For those of you that have never been out here before, not all of Colorado is mountains. Yeah, it's basically like Nebraska or Kansas out here. There's not a ton, but we have some really great cornfields and pumpkin patches and stuff like that, so we did that. Sammy turned 21 this year, which is super cool, so we explored Denver, had some drinks, had a good time. Kind of a shameless plug, I've been doing more video and photo work for folks. I recently helped edit some photos for a new restaurant going in town called Peppers. It's kind of gonna be like a Chipotle. I helped them with their menu. But yeah, if you need photo editing done or you want video projects done, that's something that I plan to do more of in 2020 as well. Another little gem in northeast Colorado is a place called Pawnee Buttes. And hopefully y'all know what a butte is, but here's some pictures. We did some hiking, it was super fun. With the planning and execution of this big old conference in Colorado Springs, so I have some great pictures from that. That was a fun time and a good getaway from the normal day-to-day stuff. I took Sammy to Nebraska to meet some of my extended family, so that was a really exciting trip right before Christmas. So that's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of stuff.
Crammed into 1 year. I know it's been a super long video. Hopefully it was kind of fun. I will definitely enjoy it. But now on to the biggest thing. So the big announcement for 2019 for me that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. As of today, December 31st, 2019, I've paid off all of my student loans.
Yes! 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 Yes!
I'm an actor, and it's weird for me to say this, but in my normal self, it's very hard for me to actually express emotion very effectively, which is maybe why I like acting so much, because it forces me to do it, and when I'm somebody else or I'm in a different role, I don't feel ashamed to express emotion. But yeah, I'm over here doing my little internal happy dance. It's a huge relief for me. In college, I worked super hard. And my parents worked super hard to help make it happen. I had 3 jobs while I was doing full-time classes. I know my dad had 3 jobs. I know that they sacrificed a lot to help keep me there and to help me not have to worry about money. It's impossible, but as much. Please hold. Sorry about that. So paying off the student loans, the idea all kind of started with right after I graduated, my brother and his wife gave me this Dave Ramsey book and a bunch of $1 bills. But Dave Ramsey is a big financial guru and basically teaches folks how to get rid of debt, how to plan for the future, what are smart investments, and just includes a ton of stories of people who defy the rat race and sell a bunch of their stuff and live below their means and make a lot of sacrifices and become debt-free, and how liberating it is. And yeah, so after I found out that the military said no, that's what I really hunkered down on. I basically took 40 to 50% of my paycheck every month and put that straight towards my student loans. And I was still able to have fun, still able to do a lot of things, as you all can see, and I owe that to my parents because I've been living with them since I got home and saving a lot of money that way. And it's been a humbling experience for sure. I don't like saying that on camera by any means, but I'm super thankful for them letting me stay here. And going into 2020, I hope to make an investment in a new place for myself, and hopefully start to work towards some more of those adult goals now that all of this debt is off my shoulders. So that is my most exciting announcement, and something I've been working very hard towards this year and a little over the past year as well. So I'm debt-free, I'm super excited, and yeah, that's my 2019. Just as a closing reminder, because social media is the devil. That's my year in review. It is a highlight reel, remember that. This year has been full of frustration, full of feeling lost a lot of the time, full of a lot of hard decisions and things that we all go through. And so keep that in mind if you have actually watched all of this. But there's highs and lows, there's goods and bads in every season. And so I hope that you've had a great year. And if you haven't, make your own opportunities and make this next year the best one yet. Happy New Year and God bless.